Thank you. Well, it's wonderful to be here, standing in front of you. Even more wonderful to be actually standing and talking to you wearing clothes. Because at 3 o'clock this morning, I was presenting to you all without any clothes on. By 4 o'clock, I was trying to get on a flight from Caracas to here, and I couldn't find my tickets anywhere. By 5, I just had odd shoes on. I had a really bad night, thanks to TED. So thank you very much, organisers. My husband's not very happy, my daughter's not very happy. But I am happy to be here today to share with you something that's kept me sleepless for about the last year and will undoubtedly keep me sleepless for the next 2 years, but is one of the most exciting things because I think it's so wonderful. What it is this. In 2 years' time, every country in the world will come here and have to make an agreement about the priorities for the next 20 or 30 years for people and planet. What are the things we need to concentrate on to do the best for people and planet? Where are our priorities? And our Secretary General, my Secretary General, your Secretary General said, let's not make it like last time. Let's not make it 8 men dressed in suits sitting in the bowels of this building, writing out 8 things and saying to the world, there you are, there are your priorities. Let's make it a truly global conversation. So he asked me and some other people to go away and think about that and make that happen. And what's the one thing you do when someone asks you to do something? You ask people who are smarter and younger than you, because you don't want to take it on yourself. So I turned to 2 people who are some of the smartest people I knew and said to them, how can we have a conversation with ordinary citizens? Ordinary, a woman sitting in Mumbai, somebody sitting in Zambia, how can we do that? And so they sat in a noodle shop and gave me in Japan, and I was in Ethiopia, and they came back and said, here's our idea. Let's ask people to choose what their priorities are. Let's ask every single one of you to say, here are the 16 things that the world are going to be talking about, and the governments are going to be talking about. What's the priority for you and your family? What matters most to you? And let's ask every single person. Let's not just ask, what do you want? Because frankly, if you ask what you want, you're not dealing with the same things that governments are wrestling with about priorities. I said to my daughter, where do you want to go for your birthday? And she said, I want to go to NASA. Well, you know what? I don't have the money to take 10 little girls to NASA from New York. So you have to think about what the priorities are. So we said, let's take 16 of those things and ask people. Let's take it out. And the aim was, let's speak to 1 million people. And that was my last 9 months. Can we speak to 1 million people? Well, guess what? This morning I got the email. We have spoken to 1 million people. We have 1 million people who came back and said, these are our priorities. This is what we care about. These are the things that matter. And those 1 million people have been contacted through many different ways. Mobile phones, new technology, people getting on bikes to go and ask questions online. And you know what? We brought it all together and be able to hear that. And so the idea that the voice of people is the voice of God, that idea that this is what it's all about, the voice of the people is the voice of God. If you're English, you love a bit of Latin. Vox populi, vox Dei. The voice of the people is the voice of God. Let's listen to it. And so we went out, we've got that 1 million voices, and we've brought it all together. And we have the coolest data analytical sites that can cut different bits of information and tell you what's the difference between globally what does everybody want. You know what people want? They want education, they want health, and they want an honest and responsive government. It doesn't matter where you go, you get the same answer. But also you get some really interesting things, like, you know what? You can find that information changes when you ask the poorest countries in the world, you know what? Transport and roads are likely to be more important than, let's say, in very rich countries. And you see the yellow bar moving up on something like this. We're also able to map the world and see it's in Latin America, in Brazil, that forests and rivers really matter to people. So we're able to start understanding some of these stories and some of these narratives. Some things surprise us, others don't. And we have 1 million people, but we want to go to 10 million, 100 million, 1 billion. But here are the things I want to put to you that are troubling me, and I'd like your answers. First of all, everyone said to me, hey, you know how you're going to do it? You're just going to text people, SMS, you can get people that way. You know what? This is how half the responses have come in. 900 organizations, hundreds and thousands of people like this boy who went on a train, on a bike, and walked into a village in Bihar and talked to this woman and said, what are your things? And then walked all the way back and put the ballot onto the website. In other words, this idea that if I SMS you, you're going to come back, it just didn't happen. Some really smart people have been trying lots of different ways to do it, but it just didn't happen. So are we able to do that? Because this is the start of a conversation that will go on in the next 2 years and beyond. We want to find out whether she thinks things are going okay. Although she's quite old. I'm wondering about 2030. But anyway, we're going to be finding that out. So that's the first conundrum. The second is this. My father, I love my father. He's into prime number theory. I don't really understand what he talks about, but he's really into it. This isn't actually his cottage. I love him. He sent me a photo of the cottage across the road. Anyway, he sits in his cottage across the road, drinking red wine, refuses to actually have proper wine racks, just piles it up. He refused to send a photo of his toilet, which has the same sort of wine. So whenever you spend time with him, you drink red wine, listen to him playing the bagpipes in his cottage. And I was looking at the wall, and he's done this. You know what this is? It's a prime number theory needlepoint, tapestry. I said to him, Dad, why did you do it? And he said he put down the bagpipes, which was sort of annoying us, opened another bottle of red wine, and he said, you know, Corinne, the reason I did this, there is no point. It's just a great pattern. And the reason I did it with needlepoint is needle has no point, so there is no point. As you can imagine, my childhood was quite complicated. Anyway, I think the thing I want to say about this is the data analytics are lovely. I get up in the morning, me and my two buddies from the noodle bar sit and we say, did you see this? But you know what? Unless you have the stories of what is going on, why is it that young boys in favelas in Brazil are saying crime and violence? What is going on in that community? All you're doing is looking at data, beautiful visualizations, wonderful things. So right now, with the 1 million voices we have, we need your help to tell us those stories and make those stories work. And then the final thing, those countries that come to this place and make those decisions, we want them to hear this and listen to this. And again, sometimes you have to listen to people who are younger and smarter than you. I have a group of young people who work with me and my team who are super, super brilliant. And they kind of use things like the internet quite well. And I've been banging on about Vox Populi, Vox Dei. The voice of the people is the voice of the God. This is what we need to do. Someone said, hey, have you looked at the full quote? And those people should not be listened to who keep saying the voice of the people is the voice of God. Thanks. Since the riotousness of the crowd is always very close to madness. That was the 12th century. And so the thing is, you know what? It's not just right that we go out and talk to people, 1 million, 100 million, 1 billion. It's not right that we just tell the stories of what's going on and why that is and make sure there's action. But also, those who make decisions, you'd kind of like them not to be thinking like this. Because otherwise, what is it? It's sound and fury signifying nothing. It's whistling in the wind. So you know what? I'd quite like to invite you to the cottage across the road, because if you come there, they'll be really surprised. And you could have worked your way through the wine, because there are many rooms with wine like this, and help me answer some of these questions. How is it that we can continue the conversation beyond 1 million to 1 billion people? And how will we keep talking to them to ask them, are things going right? Are we doing the right things? Are we doing the right things to change people and planet? And how can we do that? So that it's not just that boy that's going out on his bicycle to make that happen. Also, come back and to think about, how do we make sure we tell the stories of that data? And ultimately, oh, I'm going the wrong way, and ultimately, make sure that those people who really should be listening don't say, The riotousness of the crowd is always very close to madness, because it's not, it's the truth. Thank you.